during Trump's first administration, he actually did a lot of the things he promised to do when he ran. And I think, that's what surprised a lot of people. Like, I've said this numerous times. I wasn't a Trumpster. I wasn't really in Trump's corner. I voted for him in 2016, but I figured he was going to be like every other politician, that he made all these promises on the campaign trail. He told people the things they wanted to hear, but I didn't think most of them would get done. That there'd be, minimal effort. Maybe we'd get a little bit of border security. Maybe we'd get a little bit tax reduction, clean up things a little bit, but he really went to work hard for us. But this second term, he is back with a vengeance. And I really think that 4-year hiatus is what set the table for what we're seeing today.
Well, I'm a New Yorker like Trump, and I remember meeting him in the 70s. He was the toast of the town, right? Everybody loved him. He was giving money to everybody from the repugnant Reverend Al Sharpton. Maybe I should just drop the Reverend.
Yeah.
To Jesse Jackson and others. He was known for being interested in the community and helping out entrepreneurs, giving them loans and saying, come back and pay me back when you can. And then when they come back, and he'd ask them all about the businesses they'd built with his money, and he'd just tear up the check and send them on their way. He's really a magnanimous guy. And he developed a strong reputation. You could always count on Trump on his word in New York, and you could always count, like, the things he did, like for years. Ed Koch and the bumbling New York mayors were trying to fix the Woolman skating rink in Central Park, and it went on for years. Those people are a bunch of stumble bums in New York, the Democrat mayors, the Democrat legislators, everything. And then Trump just came in and said, hey, let me take it over. And they were like, well, we don't know. We're working on it. He said, no, let me take it over. I'll pay for it. And he spent $3 million, and in 3 months, everybody, New Yorkers had their skating rink back in Central Park. And so he's a guy who does what he says and says what he means. And I just knew when he came down that escalator and they all started smearing him and lying about him, that it was a gigantic silo full of untruths on Donald Trump. We're seeing that now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's about all we see. And I think that's part of why we're seeing this just utter meltdown in the Democrat machine is, our media throughout the course of the election cycle, that roughly 89% of the coverage of Trump was negative, or roughly 89% of the coverage for Kamala Harris was positive. And the normies in the middle just don't believe it. Like, they can smell a rat. They know something's not right when that's how the messaging looks. When everything that Trump does is a disaster, is going to destroy the country. He's Orange Hitler. It's fascism, blah, blah, blah. He's an existential threat. And then once he wins, you see at Jimmy Carter's funeral, you see him sitting next to Barack Obama, and they're laughing about it. None of these people believed a word that they said. Their messaging machine is now dead in the water. It's not going to improve. I mean, with a 60% drop in ratings at MSNBC and roughly a 40% drop at CNN, their mouthpiece, these Democrat operatives masquerading as journalists, they have no power left. Nobody believes them, and I don't think that's going to change. Do you think the Democrats are going to do anything to regain control of the messaging and the narrative?
I think they're trying. They're like a bunch of Helen Kellers stumbling around in the dark. They really have no idea because they don't know how to be authentic like Trump. They don't know how to tell the truth. They're so stuck on this path of mendaciousness. It's like a conveyor belt. They're just all telling the same lies. The talking points that they distribute to the media, and then you have all the squares coming up with all the media saying the same thing. The journalists are a big part of the problem, but they're finding out real quick that they're going to get their just desserts in the end. I think the Democrats, before we go too deep into the Democrats, we have to just stop and give a gigantic belly laugh at their current position, because it is so deserved. It is so needed for them. They always had this smug, holier than thou, smartest people in the room attitude, and when in reality, they were some of the dumbest Americans ever. And so giving a good laugh and letting out a deep breath of fresh air and saying, wow, we're liberated from these awful people and their constant tyranny is just a really good thing to do. I know everybody feels relieved, but we have to continue feeling relieved for a little while, even though they're continuing with their satanic antics.